These are the 7 levels of clutch NFL players, from the biggest chokers in NFL history all the way to the most clutch legends of all time. We're defining clutch using a combination of factors: one-score games in the fourth quarter and overtime, did they execute or have big moments, and most importantly, playoff/potential Super Bowl waiting. Clutch ability is the trait that separates the good from the great, starting with level 1.
Level 1, the chokers.
This level is reserved for players whose talent was undeniable, but who consistently failed to execute in the defining moments. Starting ironically with the top 5 QB of all time in Peyton Manning. Peyton Manning has 2 Super Bowl wins, but also has multiple one-and-done or early exits in the playoffs, a lot of those being the favorites. While he delivered in his final Super Bowl run, his early career was plagued by cold weather playoff struggles and an inability to match his regular season brilliance when the pressure intensified. Manning would dominate in September and October, putting up MVP caliber numbers, but when January arrived and the temperature dropped, those playoff performances didn't always translate. Even his Super Bowl wins, he'd throw an interception in both of them, and in his second Super Bowl win, he didn't even throw a touchdown. With how well his defenses played in both Super Bowl wins, they should have blown out the opponents, but Manning would keep those games typically pretty close. Lamar Jackson has a 3-5 playoff record. Despite winning 2 MVP awards, his playoff performances have been consistently underwhelming compared to his regular season dominance. Jackson has thrown 10 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in 8 playoff games with a passer rating of 84.6. That's a massive drop from his regular season passer rating of 102.2. In the 2023 AFC Championship game, Jackson threw for 272 yards and 1 touchdown, but also had an interception and couldn't lead a game-tying drive in the final minutes. The Ravens lost 17-10 as a favorite off the back of his second MVP award. Jackson's 3-5 playoff record with 2 MVP awards is one of the worst disparities between regular season success and postseason failure in modern NFL history. Andy Dalton's problem wasn't the lack of talent around him, but an inability to elevate his play when it mattered the most. His career record of 0-4 in the playoffs speaks for itself. Despite frequently leading talented Bengals rosters, his seasons often ended with a whimper, characterized by crucial interceptions or an offense that simply couldn't put points on the board in the biggest games. The talent was there, the execution just wasn't. Mike Vanderjagt is the only kicker here. Devastating choke jobs in multiple different playoff runs. In the 2005 divisional round against the Pittsburgh Steelers, he missed a game-tying 46-yard field goal. The miss wasn't just a physical failure, it was a mental collapse that cost the championship caliber team a chance to advance. One kick, one moment, career defined. This is a team-based entry, but I think it makes sense. We have the Buffalo Bills here. The Buffalo Bills made 4 straight Super Bowls and lost 4 straight Super Bowls. They had the talent, the swagger, and the consistency to reach the final stage, but they can never close it when it mattered most. From far right to the final whistle of the last loss, this era is the definition of falling short on the biggest stage. Another team entry is the Minnesota Vikings of 1970 to 1977, who were absolutely dominant in their conference but would crumble in the final game. They recorded 4 Super Bowl losses in 7 years. Like the Bills, they had a Hall of Fame core, but consistently fell short when facing the league's truly elite, proving that reaching the mountaintop is meaningless if you really can't plant the flag. In level 2, these guys choke slightly less frequently.
Level 2, slightly less chokers.
These players showed flashes of clutch performance but couldn't sustain it throughout their careers. Their legacies are tainted by high-profile mistakes or a limited sample size that keeps them from climbing higher. Starting with Tony Romo. Tony Romo's career is defined by a 2-4 playoff record and the perception of a December collapse reputation, where his Cowboys teams seem to falter late in the season. The single most infamous moment is the botched hold in the 2006 wildcard game against the Seattle Seahawks, a physical mistake that cemented his reputation as a player who couldn't handle the pressure. Romo had the arm talent and the regular season stats, but when December rolled around and the playoffs arrived, the Cowboys consistently fell short. That one fumble snap became the defining image of his career, fair or not. Another snapshot into one person's career is Jay Cutler. Jay Cutler's clutch debate centers on the 2010 NFC Championship game. He left that game with an injury, leading to questions about his toughness and commitment in the biggest moment of his career. While he has a 1-1 playoff record, the narrative around his perceived lack of passion and clutch gene has always overshadowed his arm talent. Cutler had all the physical tools to be elite, but the mental side of the game in pressure situations was always questioned. That NFC Championship exit became the moment that defined how the league viewed him. The 28-3 Super Bowl collapse against the Patriots will forever haunt Matt Ryan's legacy. Despite an MVP season and multiple playoff runs, that single event, where his team was unable to run out the clock or score a single point late in that game, is the ultimate example of a team and its leader buckling under pressure. Ryan has multiple playoff exits despite his MVP season, proving he really couldn't push his team over the top when it mattered the most. The talent was undeniable. The execution in the biggest moments just wasn't there though. Justin Herbert sits at an interesting position when discussing playoff performance and clutch play. While he's not the world's biggest choker, his 0-2 playoff record certainly raises questions about his ability to perform when it matters most. His playoff stats tell a concerning story: 60.7 passer rating, 515 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 4 interceptions across 2 games. His most recent playoff performance against Houston was particularly brutal: 44% completion percentage with 4 interceptions and a 40.9 passer rating. His first playoff game was arguably worse, blowing one of the biggest leads in playoff history. However, Herbert does show clutch ability in the regular season with 14 fourth-quarter comeback wins. It demonstrates he can perform well under pressure, but the small playoff sample size of just 2 games means he probably needs more opportunities, though he's been awful in those opportunities. Kirk Cousins has an impressive 25 fourth-quarter comebacks throughout his career, showing he also can perform in clutch regular season moments. However, his primetime record and playoff performances tell a different story. His primetime record is 15-21, well below 500, despite solid individual primetime stats. Cousins struggles to translate that performance into wins when the national spotlight is the brightest, similar to Herbert. Cousins has a 1-4 playoff record with 2 different teams. His lone playoff victory came in the 2019 wildcard round when Minnesota upset New Orleans on the road. Cousins threw for 242 yards and a touchdown in that game, which was by far his best playoff performance. The others were mid at best, and in 2022 was probably his worst. He did throw for 273 yards and 2 touchdowns in a 31-24 defeat. They got upset by the 6-seeded Giants in that game. He would throw a check down on the final play of that game, which honestly just kind of makes sense for him. That's what separates level 2 from the levels above. The difference between flashes and sustained excellence is the difference. And now we're on to level 3.
Level 3, towing the line.
This is the good, not great tier. These are players capable of clutch moments who are consistently good, but are ultimately defined by inconsistency or the absence of a championship in their prime. Jared Goff was statistically clutch in 2023, ranking 3rd in EPA in clutch situations and boasting a 60% game-winning drive conversion rate. He led game-winning drives against Kansas City on opening night, outlasted Justin Herbert in a shootout, and orchestrated a 12-point comeback against the Bears in the final 5 minutes. However, in that NFC Championship game in that season, it was bad. He went 3 of 13 under pressure, exposing his major weaknesses. He also lost the Super Bowl with the Rams in 2018, where he played awful in that game against the Patriots. In 2024, though, it seemed like he had rebounded his career completely. They were essentially number 1 in every stat on the offense. But then again in the playoffs, Goff, along with the rest of the team, would crumble. Goff can execute when things are clean, but when chaos arrives in the biggest moments, he struggles. Dak Prescott puts up MVP numbers in the regular season again like this season, but his clutch resume is fractured. His postseason struggles really weigh him down here. His ability to win big regular season moments is constantly offset by his postseason failures. Losing to the Packers in 2016 as favorites, playing poorly in 2021, and in 2022 losses to the 49ers. Then following that up with his worst performance of that season in 2023 against the Packers and Jordan Love, throwing multiple interceptions including a pick-6 and losing after winning 12 games for a 3rd season in a row. That inconsistency is why he's here. Dan Marino is kind of in the middle here. He retired with 420 touchdowns and was arguably the greatest pure passer of all time. But he never won a Super Bowl, and he finished with an 8-10 playoff record. His individual greatness was not enough to elevate his team in the biggest moments, leaving him as one of the best to never get a title. Marino could shred defenses in the regular season, putting up numbers that were decades ahead of his time. But when the playoffs arrived and the pressure intensified, those performances didn't really translate into championships or multiple playoff wins. He would show up small in the only Super Bowl appearance he had, along with playing poorly in the 1992 AFC Championship game against the Bills, throwing for just 2 touchdowns and 4 interceptions in those 2 games combined, along with taking 8 sacks. His regular season stats were obviously Hall of Fame worthy. The clutch resume isn't. Someone not Hall of Fame worthy, but Hall of Very good was Derek Carr. Derek Carr has solid regular season stats. He's top 13 in all time in 4th quarter comebacks as well, but his limited playoff success is why he's here. He's only 0-1 in the playoffs, and years of late season collapses with the Raiders and Saints keep him squarely in the good but not great category. Carr was able to execute in October and November, but when December arrived, and playoff positioning was on the line, the results just really weren't there. One playoff appearance in a decade-long career kind of tells you all you need to know, even though he was with the Raiders and led a bunch of fourth quarter comebacks for them when he was there. The good but not great tier is defined by players who are capable of clutch moments but lack the consistent, transcendent victories that define true legends. They can put up stats in November, but when the calendar flips to January and the playoffs begin, they don't have the resume to back up their regular season success. And that's essentially level 3 in a nutshell, but level 4 is where we get to some clutch performers.
Level 4 clutch performers.
These are the players who are consistently good in pressure situations. They have the stats and they have the moments, but they are lacking the complete transcendent dominance of the higher levels. They typically deliver when it counts, but their resumes have enough blemishes to keep them from climbing higher. Joe Burrow earned his nickname by showing up in the biggest moments. Joe Burrow has famously taken down Patrick Mahomes 3 times in his career, taking down the Ravens and the Bills, establishing himself as a true threat in the AFC. He's consistently excellent under pressure, leading comeback wins and executing in tight fourth quarters. However, the Bengals failed to score on their last 5 drives of the Super Bowl loss to the Rams. They also failed to score on their final 2 drives of the 2022 AFC Championship game loss to the Chiefs. Burrow has to be perfect in order for the Bengals to win really any games, and he's been close to that when healthy. Burrow had a 96.3 passer rating with a 13-3 touchdown to interception ratio in 2024. He has the nickname and the moments, but he just doesn't have the ring yet. When he gets one, he climbs. Until then, he's level 4. Aaron Rodgers' career is a frustrating mix of incredible individual plays and a lack of total team hardware, suggesting his clutch performances often came too late or were sabotaged by other factors. Rodgers could make the throws that nobody else in NFL history could make. The Hail Mary against the Lions, the Giants, the Cardinals, and multiple other teams shows just his rare ability to pinpoint excellence. The sideline dimes and pressure moments. The problem is, those moments didn't translate to multiple championships or even multiple championship appearances. He's only had 2 fourth quarter comeback wins in the playoffs. Both happened against the Dallas Cowboys, one in 2014 and the other in 2016. He's 13th all-time in comeback victories, but only having 1 ring for a player that he is pretty disappointing, along with losing multiple NFC championship games and coming up small in a decent amount of them. Big Ben has 2 Super Bowl rings and a solid 13-10 playoff record. Ben Roethlisberger delivered multiple game-winning drives in the postseason, including a key throw to Santonio Holmes in the Super Bowl. He was a bruising, tough competitor who consistently found a way to win when the game was on the line. Roethlisberger played through injuries, extended plays with his size and strength, and delivered in the moments that really mattered the most. 2 rings and a winning playoff record puts him firmly in this tier, but he's not higher because his individual playoff performances weren't always elite. He won, but he wasn't always the reason that they won. That's the difference really between level 4 and the levels above. The Elite Dragon playoff run in 2012 is the stuff of legend. Joe Flacco was transcendent, throwing 11 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the 2012 playoffs, culminating in a Super Bowl win and a Super Bowl MVP. It was a brief, blinding flash of pure clutch dominance that cemented his place in history. Flacco wasn't an elite regular season quarterback typically, his career stats are pretty pedestrian, but for 1 full month, he was unstoppable. The mile-high miracle against Denver, the road wins in New England, the Super Bowl performance against San Francisco. Flacco's playoff run is proof that clutch isn't just about career stats, it's about showing up when the lights are the brightest. And lastly, we have Jalen Hurts here, who's a big game performer. His best work is his 2 Super Bowl appearances, where he delivered performances that were truly better than his baseline. His ability to lead the Eagles offense in those high-stake moments, including a game-tying drive in the first Super Bowl against the Chiefs before they answered, is a strong enough case for his placement here. And then also throwing the dagger in 2024 cements him in level 4. He's got 10 total fourth quarter comebacks, having a 95.4 passer rating average in playoff games, and is one of the best one-score QBs of all time, having an overall 32-6 record. All these players are consistently good under pressure, but they're missing the transcendent, undeniable moments of the higher levels consistently. Big Ben had one, Jalen Hurts had one. These guys are proven winners, but level 5 raises the bar just a bit.
Level 5, extremely clutch.
This level is for players who deliver championships with signature clutch performances. They were the people you never had a doubt for in any big game that they would actually pull through. Eli Manning's legacy is built on 2 things. 2 Super Bowl victories over the Patriots, one being the undefeated team. The helmet catch against the 18-0 Patriots in the Super Bowl, the throw to Mario Manningham down the sideline in another Super Bowl in 2011. These were moments of pure, unadulterated clutch play that no advanced metric can fully capture. Manning wasn't the most talented quarterback of his era, he wasn't the most consistent in the regular season, but when the game was on the line against the greatest dynasty in NFL history, he delivered. twice. Matt Stafford also delivers. Matt Stafford finally shed his reputation in the Super Bowl victory over the Bengals. His game-winning drive included a dramatic comeback from a 24% win probability. He orchestrated a 15-play game-winning drive that sealed the Rams championship, proving that his elite talent could translate to the ultimate pressure moment. Stafford spent over a decade in Detroit being labeled as a stat compiler who couldn't win the big one. One Super Bowl run erased all that. He's fourth in fourth quarter comebacks all time with 39. He's got a 19-6 TD to interception ratio in the playoffs and is the MVP frontrunner for this season, which would solidify his Hall of Fame campaign. Russell Wilson's career is a mix of highs and lows. While he had the Super Bowl blowout win over Denver, he also had the infamous goal line interception in the following Super Bowl. However, his numerous clutch playoff wins and ability to extend plays when the game was on the line places him firmly in this tier. Wilson was a true dual threat performer in the clutch. The NFC Championship comeback against the Green Bay Packers, the bomb against the 49ers in the 2012 NFC Championship game as well, and scrambling just enough to get them back into field goal range when they could eventually beat the Vikings 10-9 in the Blair Walsh wide left game. The problem is that goal line interception will really haunt his legacy forever. One play cost him his second ring and keeps him from climbing higher, but the body of work, the championship, and the clutch moments earned him this spot. Same will go with Drew Brees. Brees was relentlessly precise and mentally tough, always making the right play when the Saints needed it most. Upsetting the Colts at the time in that Super Bowl was crazy. Brees has 36 fourth quarter comebacks, which is 6 all time. He didn't have the physical tools of other elite quarterbacks, but his accuracy and decision making in pressure situations were elite. He could dissect the defense in the final 2 minutes better than almost anyone ever. One ring and a career built on clutch precision earned him this spot. Ray Lewis is a defensive anchor in this tier. He has 2 Super Bowl wins and was the Super Bowl MVP in 2000 with 5 tackles and 4 pass deflections. Lewis's clutch factor was truly on display in the goal line stand in the Super Bowl against the 49ers. The defensive dominance throughout the 2000 playoff run was held on his back as well. He didn't throw touchdowns or kick field goals, but his impact on winning was undeniable. He set the tone for an entire defense, and when the game was on the line, that defense always delivered. Level 6 is where we get to historically clutch players.
Level 6, historically clutch.
We're starting with the greatest wide receiver of all time in Jerry Rice. He has 3 Super Bowl rings, a Super Bowl MVP, and in that Super Bowl MVP performance, he had 11 catches for 215 yards, and his career 22 playoff touchdowns make him the most clutch non-QB offensive player in history. Rice was always open when the game was on the line. The catch and run against Cincinnati in the first Super Bowl that they won, being the wide receiver 1 throughout the entire 49ers dynasty. Rice didn't just show up in big games, he dominated them. His combination of route running, hands, and clutch gene made him unstoppable when championships were on the line. And speaking of championships, we have Terry Bradshaw here, who defined the 1970 Steelers dynasty with 4 Super Bowl wins and 2 Super Bowl MVPs. He was a field general who consistently delivered in the biggest games, embodying the tough winning culture of that era. Bradshaw wasn't the most talented QB of his generation, his stats don't jump off the page, but when the Steelers needed a throw in the fourth quarter of a Super Bowl, Bradshaw delivered. The bombs to Lynn Swann and John Stallworth, the composure in pressure moments, 4 rings in 6 years is dynasty-level clutch performance, and Bradshaw was the QB leading it. The ultimate clutch kicker is Adam Vinatieri. He holds the NFL record for 42 postseason field goals and 7 Super Bowl field goals. Snow falling in Foxborough against the Raiders in the playoffs, the kick against the Rams to win the first Patriots Super Bowl, the kick against the Panthers to win another. Vinatieri didn't throw touchdowns or make tackles, but his ability to deliver under the ultimate pressure is why he's in this level. His game winners in those Super Bowls transcends position. A foundational piece of the Steelers dynasty, Franco Harris, has 4 Super Bowl rings and a Super Bowl MVP as well. Most importantly, he's the central figure in the Immaculate Reception in the 1972 divisional round. One of the most improbable and clutch plays ever. That single play launched the dynasty. Harris wasn't just a great back, he was a clutch back who delivered in the moments when they mattered the most. The Super Bowl performances, the playoff dominance, the ability to close out games when the Steelers needed him to run out the clock. Harris was the backbone of that offense in pressure situations, along with Terry Bradshaw. Ronnie Lott's defensive clutch factor is measured through his sheer dominance, with 4 Super Bowl rings, 63 career interceptions, and 16 postseason interceptions. Lott was a hard-hitting, ball-hogging safety who locked down opposing offenses when the title was on the line. Lott didn't just play defense, he intimidated offenses. The willingness to sacrifice his body for a win? When the 49ers needed to stop, Lott delivered. That's clutch defense at its highest level. Same would go with Mean Joe Green. He was the anchor of the legendary Steel Curtain defense. Green disrupted offensive lines, collapsed pockets, and made QBs uncomfortable when the game was on the line. The Steelers dynasty doesn't happen without Green controlling the line of scrimmage in the biggest moments. Speaking of big moments, we have Captain America here with 2 Super Bowl wins and a Super Bowl MVP in Roger Staubach. Roger Staubach's career is defined by his late game heroics, accumulating 23 fourth quarter comebacks, proving that he was a consistent winner when his team was behind. The Hail Mary against Minnesota, the comeback wins throughout his career. Staubach earned his nickname through clutch performance, delivering when the Cowboys needed him the most. These legends created the blueprint for winning on the biggest stage. They didn't just win one championship, they built dynasties. That's what separates level 6 from everyone else below. They're just not the most clutch players of all time, which is what we have next.
Level 7. The clutchest.
These are the players who redefine winning in and of itself, and we have the GOAT to start. Tom Brady has 7 Super Bowl wins and 5 Super Bowl MVPs. He has the most fourth quarter comebacks of all time, from the 28-3 comeback in the Super Bowl against Atlanta to his final ring with the Buccaneers. His career is one continuous clutch moment. Brady didn't just show up in big games, he dominated them for 2 decades. The drive against the Rams in the Super Bowl as a second-year QB, the comeback against Seattle in the Super Bowl in 2014, and the historic rally against Atlanta. Brady's clutch resume isn't just the best in NFL history, it's the best in sports history. When the game was on the line, Brady found a way to win, every single time. And someone who's taken up that mantle is Patrick Mahomes. He has 3 Super Bowl wins and 3 Super Bowl MVPs. At the age of 30, he already has 20 fourth quarter comeback wins. He's the modern standard for clutch play. Mahomes doesn't just execute in pressure moments, he makes it look effortless. The ability to extend plays when the pocket collapses, Mahomes never failed to deliver when his team needed a game-tying or go-ahead drive in the playoffs. That's not luck, that's clutch. The comeback against the Texans, the Titans, and the 49ers in order to win his first Super Bowl. The comeback against the Bengals and the Eagles to win a second. And the 49ers comeback in 2023 to win his third. He's a legend now and forever. And speaking of legends, we have John Elway. John Elway's career is defined by his sheer will to win. He reached 5 Super Bowls, winning 2. His signature moment is the drive in the 1986 AFC Championship game, where he marched his team 98 yards in 5 minutes and 2 seconds to tie the game. A moment of single-player dominance. Elway dragged his team to Super Bowls through the 80s, often with rosters that really had no business being there. The drive is the ultimate example of a player refusing to lose. He would then go soaring in the air a little bit over a decade later in order to win that first Super Bowl against the Packers. Joe Cool was the standard for quarterback before Brady. He has 4 Super Bowl wins and 3 Super Bowl MVPs. Crucially, he never threw an interception in a Super Bowl. His career is dotted with incredible moments, including the catch in the 1981 NFC Championship game, proving he was the master of clean, high-stakes football. Montana didn't make mistakes when the game was on the line. The drive against Cincinnati in that first Super Bowl win, the touchdown to John Taylor with 34 seconds left. Montana's clutch factor wasn't just about winning, it was about winning perfectly. The only defensive player in this level is arguably the best player of all time in Lawrence Taylor. Lawrence Taylor has 2 Super Bowl wins and a Super Bowl MVP with a sack and a forced fumble. LT revolutionized defensive play and single-handedly decided games with his pressure, forcing mistakes from opposing offenses when it mattered the most. Taylor didn't just play defense, he terrorized quarterbacks. When the game was on the line, LT took over. That's clutch at the highest level. And so there you have it, the 7 levels of clutch NFL players. Thanks for watching, subscribe if you're new, and see you soon.